Hey guys, I'm Roman Vail. I'm a fashion photographer based in Brooklyn, New York City. Thanks for visiting my channel. Now we're going to talk about using LUTs to color grade when you're retouching. Now a lot of you guys already think outside the box and you don't have to do everything in Photoshop. You know, you can use other programs and I found a great one. I hope this one is useful and I hope you enjoy the video. Don't forget to click the link to subscribe and follow my channel. Thank you. Check it out. Alright guys, so here I am and you're seeing the editing. I'm starting off in CaptureOne. Now that's a great raw editor. A lot of you guys use CaptureOne already. Some of you use Lightroom or something else, but those are the two main raw editors that I see people using. But CaptureOne offers some really unique tools, especially in how it handles the highlights and some of the color, and you can actually retouch an entire image in CaptureOne, but I kind of wouldn't recommend it. It's not as fluid or intuitive as Photoshop, but CaptureOne is great in just getting that file as ready as it could be for some more detailed retouching and editing and color grading. So, but another thing that it does really well that you see me doing right now is just fixing blemishes. While it's in the raw editor, you have the raw data to the image, and so you know, fixing anything here is kind of like the best scenario. You can remove blemishes, discoloration, dust, lint on a garment. You can remove all that. But Photoshop is where you do the heavy lifting. So in Photoshop, I always make a background layer that I keep in the background. I just, you know, turn it off. I always have my starting point that I can always go back to in case of anything. But as you see, the first approach that I have is just kind of taking care of the maintenance of the shot. I'm looking around, I'm seeing with my eye what's distracting, what's not distracting. Now I shoot with 36 megapixel camera, so it's fairly detailed. It's not a 50 megapixel and it's not 100 megapixel, but 36 gets you very close and gets you some great images. So right now I'm just kind of cleaning up, you know, any discoloration, any imbalance that I see in tone. So I'm seeing something very light standing out on something that's not as light, then it's going to be distracting to the eye, so I'm taking care of that. Likewise, anything that's too dark in a patch of skin that's maybe lighter or brighter, I'm dealing with that. I'm also, you know, that beauty mark under the hair right there, not a big deal, I take that out, but the model does have a mole on her, or a beauty mark on her face, and I'm not removing that. That's kind of part of her aesthetic, and anything that's very a part of your model, I wouldn't recommend removing it. Like, you know, maybe if she has like a little heart tattoo on her wrist, you can take that out, but anything that's like definitive, you know, where it's like just part of who your model is, I would recommend just leaving that, keeping things natural. When she goes to a casting, you don't want anyone, the art director or somebody, to see your model and be like, wait, you look different in the photo, something's different, I'm not sure what's different. You kind of don't want to give the folks anything to wonder about or to potentially criticize. So you just, you know, my approach is to kind of do it in a more clean way. The other thing is you need to know your limitations as an editor. Some of you are really great at masking, some of you are really great at color balance, some of you are really great at skin work or hair work, or you know, using the liquify tool or changing out backgrounds. Some of you do all of that, but you have to just because you have fun with these tools, and you know, it is fun working on these images, you don't have to use every tool to make an image retouch complete. You have to do what's necessary for the particular image. Here, I know that it's going to just require some skin work, and I can combine with healing brush in both a lightened setting, a darkened setting, and a normal setting, and I kind of balance those out at the end. You see me removing the pin there from the clothes, and sometimes, you know, healing or cloning works, and sometimes you got to just paint in a color. You do whatever is necessary to not let it distract, and where it looks like it's supposed to be like that, where it doesn't look altered. So after this healing, I will then do an automation that I have for skin smoothing, and you kind of balance those two out together. You don't let that automation control your retouch. You apply it, and then you can scale it back or mask certain areas, or apply it with a brush, you know, with a mask. So you have to do what you feel is right. Don't let this, don't let the plugins, don't let the, you know, someone else's creation dictate how you do things. Try to figure it out for yourself. That's why I'm not really going too deep into the actual settings that I'm using or what I'm actually doing. But you have to have a method. I think having an idea of kind of like the map of how you're going to take an image somewhere is more vital than, you know, these other things. You know, it's you're going to need to know what you can do, what you can't do, and then lean on your strength, but try to compensate. You know, obviously the more time you put in, the longer you are editing and retouching images, the more photo shoots you do, the more conversations with other professionals you have, the more of a language, a professional language, both technically and artistically, you're going to have. You're going to be able to apply this new skill in a way that you haven't before. Because I remember when I first started retouching, I would just apply some I can't even remember what it was. It basically just diluted the skin to make it look so fuzzy and so unsharpened, you know, and then you apply a mask to kind of put that in it as though it was smoothing the skin. And at the time it was like, oh, that's all I know what to do. I'm sorry, I can't remember what that was called even. It's been so long, but once I got a handle of how I like to retouch skin and how I like to retouch images, you know, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't been doing this the whole time. So it is very, very helpful to work on your craft, especially as a photographer. You're going to be, if you're doing your retouching, you kind of have full control of what the shoot starts like, how it goes, and how it ends up, how the image ends up, as opposed to shooting a bunch, handing it off to someone else, and having their, you know, work represent your work, unless you have like an amazing tandem between yourself and another retoucher. But some of us, you know, are technical, and some of us are artistic, and some of us are technical and artistic. And for me, I've always strived to the latter, just so I can have an artistic control over what I execute technically, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is 3D LUT Creator. So you basically import the image into this program, and it's using a color wheel where you can very easily, see I'm controlling the sky, and very easily you can take a section of color in the color wheel, and you can brighten it, you can darken it, you can desaturate, you can saturate, you can change the hue, all in this one tool. So it's kind of like having 2 or 3 different tools in Photoshop, but just in this one panel. So it's very intuitive, very broad stroke. This is not fine-tuning like little things, even though you could do that. This is more of a broad stroke approach. This is the color grading, editorial kind of mindset that you're having. And then I go through the curves where you can adjust luminosity and saturation, and how the saturation is affected by the luminosity, the luma-sat curve, and then the sat-sat curve, and then you know, the sat-luma curve. It's like some of this will be familiar to you guys, but I recommend checking this program out. And then basically you set this LUT up, so if you have other images in the series, you can apply that LUT and have a similar vibe, similar style and look of all those images that you've just created off this one. So after this, you know, you can choose to have your own LUT. You can do a combination of things. You can have a LUT just for skin, a LUT just for the background, a LUT just for style, and you can combine all of those, not in this program, but in Photoshop. You can combine it there and you know, be able to really tweak a certain look. And then once you have it, you can just copy and paste it into another image if you want, or always have it as a reference point. So that's basically what I'm doing now. I'm just kind of approaching those things. I'm sharpening. I did some liquefying to creatively and artistically, carefully pull in and make the lines tighter of what I feel the image needed. You sharpen it, and then basically the image is done. You know, just went through, instead of an extra 10, 12 layers in Photoshop for color grading, you have this one LUT, and this is what the image looks like.